Hi everyone, this is just an explanation more for the grown-ups really, to help them to understand about how we learn comprehension here in year 2 mainly and at Woodlands in general. So when we do comprehension in our class and in year 2, we follow the reading Vipers, and it's the Vipers is an acronym for V for vocabulary, I for infer, P for predict, E for explain, R for retrieve, and S for sequence or summarise. So comprehension skills are really important for your child's learning, because through phonics and through the teaching and learning of phonics, that's how your child learns to read, and that's a skill in itself. But once your child is a fluent reader and can decode fluently without having to sound out, then which is usually by year 2, and sometimes by the end of year 1 or earlier, because we all develop at different rates, then they're ready to tackle comprehension. It's hard to tackle comprehension if a child is still at the decoding and sounding out stage, because it involves so much cognition going on, so much understanding in the brain to decode words, that it's hard to understand comprehension at the same time. But once your child doesn't have to think about sounding out and they are blending and just reading more fluently, then they are ready to understand comprehension, because this is a separate skill. So it's one thing looking at the words in front of you and being able to decode them and in order to see what they say, but it's another skill learning to know what those words mean. And when you read, you make meaning out of those words, and that's what helps you understand what you're reading and helps you to make sense of the text in front of you. And obviously, as you know, when they get to year 6, they usually do SATs, and as they go through their secondary years, they'll be doing other exams and tests. And English is all around us, so English is such a huge part of the curriculum, and in order to access the curriculum, you have to be able to understand what the text is saying, which is why reading and teaching the skill of reading is so important in primary school, because by the time they come to do SATs in year 6, you're asked to answer some quite tricky questions. So we start teaching these skills in year 2 in order to help their comprehension skills get better. So what we do, and we do this through either individual comprehension like you're going to do today, through the use of a book, and we've used Super Tato and Evil P this week. So the questions are based on Evil P rules, and I'll pop the story back on the website for you as well, just in case you can't remember it and if you haven't got it at home. And then we break it down. So we have one question based on vocabulary. So the vocabulary part focuses on the words in the text. So whenever you're reading with your child, ask them, are there any words that they don't understand the meaning of? And either together you can use a dictionary to look them up, or look them up on an online dictionary, or talk about the meaning if you know them, because that's half the battle for understanding text, is knowing the meaning of the vocabulary. If you don't know what a word means, that could interrupt the whole flow of reading, and it might end up getting a wrong answer because they've not interpreted the meaning of the word correctly. So vocabulary is really important. And we also use a lot of visual cues to match the words. So we do that through whole class guided reading, which we'll find out about later today, because it's much easier for children at this age to understand what a word means through the use of a visual cue. So sometimes they say to me, I was explaining to this class before Christmas what a cloche was. They didn't know and they hadn't seen one before, so we googled it and I showed them the image of it. So sometimes having that image alongside the word just helps reinforce what that word means, and then so next time the child comes across it, they'll then know and they don't have to look it up again. Infer means to use your knowledge of the world with a literal meaning, so the pictures or the literal meaning of the text in front of you, and combine them together to infer why you think a character is behaving that way, or why they've done something, or what they think is going to happen and why. So they use the clues that they've read so far as well to try and infer what's happening. And P for predict, it's similar to inferring. So predicting is again using the clues, using the knowledge of the world, using the picture cues to predict what they think might happen in the story and why. and also think about what's happened so far in the story and what might happen next. R for retrieve. Retrieval is basically getting the right answer from the text. So they're usually the simpler parts of comprehension because it involves a yes or a no, or just quick go to the story. How many vegetables are there in the story? It might be a quick act of counting. So that's usually a quick part which doesn't involve much thinking because the answer is usually quite clear from reading the story. Now, to sequence or summarize. So when you're sequencing events, which is what you'll do in the comprehension questions today, it means that you've got to number the events that happened in the right order. So in today's questions, you've got 4 sentences they represent the events that happened in the story, but they're not in the right order. So the child has to work out which event happened first, put number 1 next to it, then work out which event happened next, put number 2 next to it, work out which event happened third in the story, put number 3 next to it, and which event took place last, put number 4 into it. Summarising means just summarising in short, snappy sentences what happened, the main parts of the story. What happened at the beginning, was there a goodie, was there a baddie, was there a problem in the story, and how did that problem get solved? So it's not about retelling the whole story, but it's about summarising the main points and the main events in a shortened version. So I hope that explains to you how we teach and learn comprehension here at Woodlands, because I didn't want to just give you the sheet because you might think, what's Mrs. Pelosi going on about? So I just wanted to explain it a little bit to give you a bit of background and knowledge about reading comprehension. Thank you, bye.